Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to the Still in Love podcast. This is episode 6.
Yay, we back.
We are.
We are back. Hallelujah. Today is going to be good, as all the others have been, but today is especially good because we are talking about married with kids.
Yes.
Have you enjoyed being married with kids?
I've thoroughly enjoyed being married with kids.
What is one thing, just one, I know there's a plethora, but what is one thing that you have enjoyed about being married with a child or with children in our case?
What is the one thing? Just having a family,
Okay.
being a part of a family, leading a family, being responsible for a family.
You enjoy that.
I enjoy it.
Amen.
I enjoy it.
Amen.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's wonderful. All right, so we won't waste any time today. We're going straight in.
Let's go.
We're going to go straight in. So here are a few things that we wanted to highlight in regards to being married with children. And so wherever you are, if you are a young couple and you are just now getting into conversations about, hey, possibly and potentially bringing a little person into your little family, whether you're getting ready to have a child, or you are new in this thing and you have a newborn or a toddler and all of that, or if you just have older children, this show is going to cover all of that. So starting off, first things first is bringing children into your marriage creates change. Things will change. Change is inevitable. It is unavoidable because your family has been functioning as two. Like in our case, it was just you and I. And then we added Maddie to the mix. And so our family of 2 became a family of 3.
That's right.
And so because we were bringing somebody else into, our schedules changed, our money changed, our time definitely changed, our attitudes changed.
Yes.
Attitudes changed. A lot changed physically and mentally.
That's right.
I changed. And so because it's inevitable, I think it's important, especially for couples, if you are just now getting ready to enter into parenthood, that you understand that change is going to happen. You cannot avoid it. However, you can prepare for it as much as possible. And a lot of what I found in being a parent is it is trial and error. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Some things you think in your mind, and I know it was like this for me. I knew, well, I want to be this type of parent. Like, I want to be this type of mama. And some of that was a mixture of probably things that I had seen, things that I experienced growing up. So because of that, I'm gonna be this type of woman, this type of mama. I even felt like that even in marriage, like, oh, I'm gonna be this type of wife. And then I get in it, and then it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's not flowing like I thought it was gonna flow. And especially being a mom, I didn't realize I knew that physically, as you know, you go through the process of pregnancy, I knew that my body was physically changing, but I had no idea that my body would continue to change after giving birth, but also mentally, like just those changes. Financially, it was a change for us because we went from, hey, we got our budget rock solid, and now we're adding things like Pampers that were, you know, I don't even remember what they were 17 years ago, but it was added to the budget.
That's right.
You know. And then let's talk about milk, because milk was $30. The kind that Madison had to drink, it was $30 a container. And if you're going through, I don't care how many you're going through, a week.
She owed me.
Well, hey. So it's those changes. Then there's clothes. There is other necessities. If they have to go to the doctor, it's all of these added things. All these additions that have been added to the budget that was not there. So that's just, all of that is a part of the change.
Yeah. I think, for me, when we got married, I think God blessed us to really do a good job of preparing. So I think the preparation was really good, but still there were some things that we didn't account for, because we're adding a whole person to our family, a
Yes.
whole person, because it was just you and I. I remember us getting married, and one of the things we said is that, listen, we don't want to have kids right away, and we
Right.
didn't. It was about close to 2 years before we had Madison, and so I would encourage any couple to, if you're married and you're newlyweds, enjoy each other first. If you can, if you're at an age where you can enjoy each other first, go out of town, travel, go to the beach, hang out, go as you please. Just sometimes we would just say, hey, look, let's head out.
Yeah,
let's go to Nashville. Let's
Yes.
just go and do something. We didn't
Yes.
have to communicate with anybody. We
Nope.
didn't have to worry about packing any clothes. We were just able to do that.
That's it.
But when kids came in the picture, then we had to be very strategic about what we did and how we did it.
Yes.
And so the excitement was there and it's still there, but things definitely changed. I think for me, one of the changes, what I saw and what I didn't anticipate is the change in you.
Very good.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate that. I thought things were just going to remain the
Be the
same.
same, yeah.
That
So did I.
Yeah,
But so did I.
And so I think those things, if we could do it over again, it was just knowing what we know now, anticipating the change, anticipating the possibilities of what can happen with one's body, anticipating what happens mentally and physically, with particularly with a wife, during that time. So, but change is like you mentioned, it was inevitable. It's inevitable when you have children.
And it really is like a you have to really hone into like what and I'm looking at this in hindsight too, because being in the moment, I wish sometimes I had someone to kind of guide me in some of the change. We only talk about the cute stuff when adding babies, like, oh, they're so cute. Oh, it's, now, of course, in the world of social media, everything can be, picture worthy. But it's like, getting up in the middle of the night was like, dang it, like you crying every 4 hours. What? nothing needed me like this. And I'm every 4 hours and I'm trying to feed you, and I still have to get up and go to work. Or at this point I wasn't working. But even that, like, I'm tired. I've been in the house all day with his baby who needs me for everything. And that was new.
Yes.
You know that children require things of you. But I don't think we really understand, no, they really, really require you.
Yeah.
Like you. So I remember like even just appreciating hot showers. Because when your time is, you get up in the morning, okay, you're getting ready to leave, I'm here, so I still have to try to get some stuff done around the house, so let me try to clean up. And so by this time, now she needs a bottle. Or I don't want to be the mama that's constantly sticking a bottle in her mouth, so let me try to engage the baby. It's, like, let me engage my baby, rather. Let me engage her, okay, let's do this. And don't think if there's anything else that I'm responsible for, anything else that I need to be doing, like, all of that is hard. Let me try to get a load of laundry done. Let me try to find something to cook. Let me try to, and all of that in one day, like, that is tiring.
Yeah.
Like, and to not really get a break.
Yeah.
Not a mental break, not an environmental break, all of that. So, yes, change will happen. Things will change, and it is okay. It is absolutely okay. And it's, new mamas, like, listen, you are not supposed to be the same. You are not going to be the same.
A whole person in
That's
you.
it. And listen, you delivered a whole person, a whole human. So it is okay. And give yourself some grace. Give yourself a lot of grace. I think new mamas should absolutely give themselves grace. All right. Number 2.
Yeah.
Number 2 is married couples have to talk. They have to. If you are adding new family, if you are adding an individual, or if you are adding new anything to your marriage, you are going to have to talk. You have to communicate. So I remember, and we've shared this numerous times, about my experience with postpartum depression. Like, I just felt like, so here I am, this new baby. It is this weight of all of this. Now, mind you, there was a situation in my job before having her, and I was trying to hold on, and so I ended up going into labor early, and so there was just a lot of stuff going on there. And so they end up letting me go. So we had just bought this home. Literally, I had Madison on one day, and 3 days later, we were closing on a brand new home. And I had just, unbeknownst to me at this point, that I did not have a job. So I was contacted, I'm going to say maybe 2 weeks after I had her, like, hey, yeah, you don't have your job anymore. Yeah. So I didn't have time for my FMLA to kick in. And so I think it was, I didn't go back to my routine. And here's another weight. Then it is this, I hope that I'm doing my very best as a mama. Yes. It's the weight of that. And it's also whatever hormonal changes was going on. I didn't have I don't think the knowledge or even just the wherewithal or the insight to even talk to my doctor about it. I have an amazing OB, GYN. But I just didn't know that I could have said something to her about like, hey, I'm kind of experiencing this slump. Like I'm kind of in a funk. I love my baby and I love the fact that I am a mama, but there's like this really big disconnect. And I didn't know that. Like, and it's talking to your spouse, but it's also talking to other people. Like I didn't share that with anybody else who was around me, and nobody has shared it with me. Nobody. I had a friend at that time who had just had a baby. I had other friends, other women who were around me in my circle, but nobody brought up this issue of, hey, when you have this baby, you may or may not feel like yourself. And here's some things that you can do to either prevent it, or here's some things that you can do while you're in it. That's right. One of the biggest things is talk. How are you? When people ask you, how are you doing? Tell them how you're really doing. Yeah. Because you know, of course, the enemy loves to pull us and bring us into isolation. But some of it is when you know that other women have been through it, you don't feel so defeated. You don't feel so alone. You don't feel like you're a failure when you know that, I'm not out here by myself. And I think I was feeling all of that at that time. And then I'm not even talking to you about what I feel. Yeah. I'm feeling the need to play along. Oh, you're a new mama. You should be excited. You should be doing all the things that new mamas should be doing. Well, where was I getting my cues from? Yeah. I'm just looking at other people, and everybody else looked like they were happy when they had their baby. So obviously something is wrong with me. When no, there wasn't anything wrong with me. It was, I needed intervention, and I needed some relief. I needed to be able to talk and to converse. And so even with us, it was just this, whatever that was, the postpartum, everything that was going on in my mind, it was just, I can only assume creating this wedge between us. Yes. This, I don't really want to be bothered-ish. I don't really want to engage like that because I have so much going on up here, and I already feel like a failure, and I feel like that's adding to. I don't feel like a wife. Yeah. I feel almost like a failure as a mother because I'm having all this internal stuff going on. So there's no way. And what kind of woman is an excellent wife and then a horrible mother? So that was crazy. Yeah,
and I think for me, not understanding what postpartum was, you're really familiar with it, not knowing that there was something that you was experiencing, and us not really talking about it. Yep. So I think that's really good when you say talk. It's important to talk to where even if we couldn't identify exactly what it was, at least allow me to hear that this is what I'm feeling. So I didn't think that, I felt that, okay, now, our 6 weeks up. And so it's
the
on
countdown.
I'm talking about every day. I'm marking the countdown. I know. But I ain't have to have a countdown. I just had a mental. Of course. I know when the day of, I'm going to the doctor with you to make sure there's no setbacks in his own, But when that was over with, just to see that, things weren't back to regular scheduled program. Yeah. And so that's a concern. So now I'm thinking that this baby, which is supposed to be a blessing to us, to where it's like, wait, now this baby, because the baby, it's it's hindering what's very important to me. It's hindering what I need. It's hindering, you from really now being a good wife. So I'm thinking that you're an excellent mom, but your attention shifted, in my opinion, to the child rather than to your husband. And so now I'm feeling some kind of way. Like, how did this baby take my attention?
And you're looking at my actions. You're
That's
getting
right.
that from how I'm
That's
acting.
right.
Not what I'm saying, but
Yes.
you're getting that from how I'm
Yes.
acting. Yeah.
Yes. And so it's no communication. This is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling different.
Yeah.
My body is, and I'm just thinking, okay, so now, I remember saying this to you, I said, now you can get the baby from me. And so you all right now, we can get married, you can get a child from me. And so you cool,
Yeah.
and so that was my thought process, because when there's no communication, then you leave it up to the other individual to assume.
Pause. Say that one more time.
When there's no communication, then it's left, you leave it up to the other individual to assume, whatever they want to assume. So now I'm assuming that it's me. I'm assuming that it's the child. I'm assuming that things have changed. I'm assuming that, what kind of woman do I have?
Yeah.
Because how has there been a shift in the attention where I was number one and now I'm not number one anymore, to where, and so it's frustrating because there's not any communication, as it relates. And I think even if there was communication, it would have took a while for me to understand it.
Yep.
But now that there was not any communication, now I'm left to assume whatever I want to assume.
Yeah.
She don't love me. She don't care about me. She got the child. She's okay now.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying, man. Maybe we shouldn't have had a child. Maybe we should have continued to wait, and so it was those type of things, which I feel is very important to talk, to communicate. This is how I'm feeling, to take me along the journey with you, because we're in it together.
Yes.
And you felt you felt alone.
I'm out here by myself.
You felt by yourself,
That's it. Yep.
But we were on a journey together to where I'm out, we had just bought a house. It was at one point we didn't have any insurance while you were pregnant.
Yep.
Because on our job, some things happened there.
Yep.
And then you lose a job. And so I'm really trying to put it together, hold us down, hold his family down.
Yeah.
And now I'm feeling that now my needs are not being met, and we have this new child. And so my thoughts are all over the place. But it was just, not understanding that the language of postpartum, and us really not talking about it. So I think you spot on as it relates to, even if nothing is diagnosed or you can't pinpoint it, it's just talking and taking your spouse along the journey. This is what I'm thinking. I think in any area, when anything changes, allow your spouse to go along the journey with you. I know this may sound crazy. I know this may seem like just out of my mind, but this is how I'm feeling. I feel like I love my baby, I love my child, but I want to sit my child on the steps and run off on a long trip
and not come back.
And not, but I do love them. So I don't know how to I don't know how to reconcile the two, but this is how I'm feeling, And so but I think conversing about it is so important. I think that was the one thing that we missed during that time.
Absolutely.
And it was frustrating. I didn't know. Post what? Only thing I know is what was not now.
That's right. Yep.
And I don't want to hear it. Like, look, I don't look. It's got to happen.
Okay.
Like we said it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
We said that it's gonna be early and often.
All
We
the
said
time.
before any. We said, and
Yeah.
it's, and we're not gonna let no little crumb snatching 2-month-old baby.
Can't call my baby
She was
snatch.
crumb snatch. 2-month-old baby stop me from what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yes, amen to that. So that point was so good, like bringing your spouse on the journey with you. And I think like this comes back to when you are used to being independent and you come into a marriage, you are used to handling yourself. So I don't depend on somebody else to handle me. Yes. I handle me. Like, our finances are together. We're doing life together. But that is a process that you have to learn to grow out of, where I can learn or I can lean into my spouse now for emotional support. And all of that was new. We were still, Madison came along and we were year 3 and 4 in our marriage. So it really was a learning that was definitely a learning experience. And then 7 years into it, we bring MJ into the fold. And the same rules apply. the same rules apply. Change is going to happen
Yes.
again.
Yes.
It's going to happen again. But this time, I was a little more prepared
Yes.
for what could possibly happen.
Yes.
There was no postpartum with MJ. And I think it's because I'm speaking certain things over my life. I'm using scripture. I am spending time with God. I am on guard for how the enemy may try to come and okay. I'm realizing the importance of pulling away to spend time with my girlfriends, pulling away, spend time with myself, pulling away and saying, hey, I need help. We were very, 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 very fortunate in raising our children that we had the type of support that we had. There was nothing that we could not do. You know, like if we needed childcare, we had childcare.
Yes.
If we needed to go away for a few days, we could do that. Hey, you call grandmama or you call nana, you call granny, whoever. Hey, we got your back. And so having that, I think also helped the second go round because I didn't feel like I was out there on the island by myself. And looking back, I saw what I needed. And in some aspects, I made sure I got what I needed.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and so I didn't take for granted spending time away from the kids by myself.
Yep.
Spending time with my friends, laughing, tripping, you know, joking, spending time with you apart from the kids.
Amen.
All of that is important to staying in love, but also just maintaining some sense of normalcy and some sense of my children. I love them. I do. I love them. I love my spouse. I love everything that God has blessed me to be able to have. That's you all are a blessing to me. And you've said this before, but you all, you are not my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I am, when I am my spirit, my physical body, and my mental, when I am healthy on those fronts, I am a much better wife and I am a much better mother. I'm a much better friend. I'm a much better everything when I am whole and seeking wholeness in those areas, you know?
Yes.
And so I just wanted to make that point as we were, going there. Yeah. And this was another point and I want to make sure that we mention this. So in your talking and in your communicating with your spouse, and so this is not just for new parents, this is for existing couples. Like you got newborns, you got a 6-year-old, and you got a 12 and a 15-year-old. It is still talking, communicating, talking about what you need, talking about your needs. But I also want to say this, that babies don't fix broken marriages.
Come on, sister.
Sometimes I see young women who really, really desire after they're in a marriage, right? And so the marriage may have some rocky places. And now they feel like the next step to probably secure some things a little bit better is to have a child.
Yes.
Baby, sweetie, bringing a baby into a broken situation is only going to break the child. It is only going to break the child. And it's going to continue to break you in some respect because now you are looking for this child to do something that it is not intended to do.
It's just a Band-Aid.
That's it.
Temporary Band-Aid.
And it is too big of a responsibility for you to place on a child to do and be anything other than to be a child.
Yep.
To be loved. When you bring a child into the world, it's kind of like when you get married. You don't get married to get fixed. You get married to give love. Same thing with a child.
That's right.
You bring a child into this world because you desire to love and to nurture in the name of the Lord. Mm-hmm. You desire to love and to nurture and to bring up and to raise an individual in the fear and admonition of the Lord. Mm-hmm. That's it. That is it.
That's it.
So, in anything else outside of that is why are you putting that weight on the child? You put this weight so your marriage is in shambles, and now we create sometimes, and there are a lot of different scenarios we can go here, but one in particular is we begin to put this yoke of almost where we force our kids to grow up so fast because now they've become almost we either use them to get back at our spouse, we use them to hurt our spouse. We use them to, now we over here and we're doving all of our love and our attention onto this child when it's let's not put that weight
Yeah.
on a child. A child is here to be loved, to be nurtured, and raised in the fear and admonition of the Lord.
Yes.
Anything outside of that, that is too much weight. Your child is not your counselor, your relationship counselor. Your child is not the person you sit down with and you spill all there is to know about their dad or their mom. Like that's not what they're here for. That's your job again. Love, nurture, and raise them in the fear of the Lord. That's it. Anything else outside of that is you're putting too much weight and pressure on a child to do that. Just let children be children. Let them run outside. Let them get dirty. Let them, without having the weight and the pressure of trying to carry you and your relationships.
Yes.
Get friends. Get you some friends. Or a therapist or other people that you can talk through and you can talk things through so that you can get the healing that you need. That is way too much pressure. Yes. And babies don't fix that.
That's right.
You're ultimately going to be raising someone that's going to enter into this world, and that cycle is going to continue because you're raising a broken person.
Yes.
And you're showing them brokenness.
That's right. And babies doesn't fix a broken marriage, and marriage doesn't fix a broken person. And I think oftentimes people look to other entities to fix them. Yes. When the only true fixer is Jesus.
Jesus, say it again.
The only true fixer is Jesus. On now. And so I think when people, I'm gonna get married to fix this broken situation, to fix my brokenness, or I'm gonna have a child to fix our broken and fragile relationships, because you're bringing somebody in to a situation that's already fragile.
Yes.
It's already, so now the weight of that, would make it crumble. I think what's so important as well is that oftentimes people bring kids into marriage and they make their child their God. They make their child their God. They put all of their attention and their efforts and energy into their children. And they say, well, I want to live vicariously through my child. Things that I didn't do, I want to make sure that they do it. And some of that has its place.
Yes.
We say this, I heard this statement, and I said as well, listen, I got it out the mud so that you wouldn't have to.
Yes.
So some parents are so high on that to where they had to struggle so that their kids won't have to. But it doesn't mean that you cripple them.
Yes.
It means that you still, train them and give them the proper tools that they need without handicapping them.
Yes.
And I think that's so important. It's so important that we don't deify them and make them our God and put them above our spouse or our God.
Correct.
Because when your relationship is fragile, it's easier to love your child and to put your attention and affection and devotion to your child because my child loves me. My child is not based on performance, because you can feel a certain way about your spouse, and you can feel that my spouse loved me and it's not unconditional. So it's based on what I do and what I don't do.
Yes.
And so if I am not cleaning, then my husband don't love me. Or if I'm not taking care of my responsibilities, my wife don't love me. But my child is going to love me regardless. And so it's easier to love your child and to put your attention and affection and devotion to your child.
Because it's loving me right back.
And you have to be so careful with that. And so sometimes in marriage, when it's not healthy, that's what can happen. And also, it's just making sure you keep the main thing, because people often don't do that. Oftentimes what we've seen is that, this is the priority, point blank period, is God, your spouse, your children, your ministry, and other things, and everything else, follows. But oftentimes in our society, it's God, so to speak, my children, and then my spouse. That's out of order.
Yes.
That's out of order.
Yes.
And people feel some kind of way. How am I going to put my husband before my child? It is that order. It doesn't mean that you love your child any less than you love your spouse. It means that is the pecking order. That is the order that God has designed.
Yes.
And I think we need to respect that order. We mentioned before that oftentimes people are saying that even both couples, both individuals saying that we're going to invest in our children. And I love, we invest in our children. You better invest in your children, but don't do it at the expense of the marriage. Correct. Every time we go out of town, our children don't go out of town.
That's right.
Every time we want to spend time, we have family night and we have date night as well. And y'all can't go to date night. Correct. You cannot hang out with us. Correct. This is mama and daddy time.
Correct.
They need to see that. And it's healthy for our relationship as
Correct.
well, and so I think, not feeling guilty about you pulling away and spending time with each other, not feeling guilty about, it's saying that this is our time, but also spending time, with having family time with your children as well, but having that balance.
Yep.
And sometimes people struggle with that.
Yep.
And it's, where we're going to invest everything into our children, and, and then we're doing it so that we can become empty nesters. So everything now, we're empty nesters. But if you give all of your energy into your kids while you're married to become empty nesters, then once you become an empty nester, then
Now
you'll
what?
have an empty marriage.
That's it.
You
Now
know,
what?
and
Yep.
so now your marriage is empty because all of this time you have not invested in your marriage. So in order to stay in love and to keep the fire burning and to maintain what you have to consistently and continually invest in your marriage.
And that is number 3.
Oh, come on.
No, that's it. That was a great segue into number
Okay.
3, which is maintain.
That's it.
Like you have to, and maintenance is an investment.
Yes.
Maintenance
Yes.
is an investment.
You just told me this. You said, Myron, we got to get on. There's something that
A shutter. The
in
shutter
our
on the
house.
house.
You said,
Yep.
we got to get on this.
Yep.
You said, because right now it's probably $60. You speaking my
Correct.
language. See, she know how to speak my
I
language.
had to come with the
She
facts.
came with the fact.
I had
She
to
said,
come
let's
with
get
the-
on
with
this.
the
I'm
dollar
kind of like,
signs.
yeah, we'll get it.
Yeah.
But she said this. She spoke my language. Listen, right now it may be about $60.
$60 issue. Yeah.
But if we don't jump on it right now and then something happen, then it may cost us like $600-$700.
Yes.
Now I'm like, let me go ahead and jump on it.
Ain't that
But that's the
different
same
motivators?
That's
Hello?
it. That's the
It's
same
different
thing in
motivators.
marriage.
Yeah.
Because it's not an issue, and so I'm not gonna jump on it because it's not urgent.
Right.
It's not. If it was urgent, then I'd do it. But it's not really urgent. It's something that's important, and we forego the important things. We forego what's important, and so you can't forego what's important.
Right.
Maintenance in marriage is so important because
Very.
when you fail to invest,
Yes.
it's just chips at it. Well, I'm not saying that I love you. It chips at the emotional disconnect. It chips at just we're not spending any time. We're not having date night. We're not kissing. We're not touching. And you don't see the marriage falling away or just dwindling and the love fading away all at once because it's just little by little.
Yep.
And the word of God says, Jesus said that the small foxes destroy the vine.
Come on, what kind? Not the big ones.
Not the big ones. Not the infidelity, all of that. That's huge and that's big. That can destroy it instantly. But oftentimes it's not in the infidelity. It's not in the neglect. It's not in the abandonment. It's in the small things.
Yep.
It's
small
the
ways
small.
of
That's it.
neglect and
That's it.
abandonment. You're not maintaining
That's it.
You're not maintaining
and it just chips away at the marriage.
Yeah.
And then before you know it,
Yeah.
somebody says, "I don't want to be in this marriage anymore." I just and the other person's like, "What just happened?" What just happened was
Yep.
you stopped complimenting. What just happened was you stopped taking me out.
Yep.
What just happened was you stopped doing those small things that you thought was small
Yep.
that was really big that matters. And over time,
Yep.
it just it ate away at an individual. And now your marriage is not what it can be, and you end up in a courtroom that you don't want to be in, and you serve papers that you don't want to be served, and you're trying to figure out what just happened. But it's the failure to maintain.
That's it.
Failure to maintain control over vehicle. Like some people
Results in an accident.
Results in an accident.
When there is an accident, somebody's going to get that ticket
That's
that
it.
says failure to maintain proper control.
Yep. And
Ask
that's
me
in
how I know.
marriage. Failure to maintain, proper investment in your marriage
Correct.
will lead you to divorce court.
Maybe we should create some tickets and give them to people.
We should do that. Will you get a ticket for failure to maintain
Proper.
proper investment in your marriage? If you leaving out that house and you ain't saying you love them, then you're not maintaining proper investment in your marriage.
You're getting a ticket.
You getting a ticket. If you ain't kissing each other daily, you getting a ticket. If you ain't hugging each other, if you ain't listening to each other, if you're not meeting each other's needs and speaking each other's love language, you will get a ticket. We're gonna send you a ticket.
Yep.
Some of y'all watching right now, and you think that this is a joke. But don't be surprised if you get a ticket. You getting a ticket because you failure to maintain proper investment in your marriage.
And even this, like maintaining the person that you were before you had the baby. Like if you worked out diligently, if you were a worker outer, if you were a reader, if you were I'm not a shopper, because that'll get you into trouble. But if you just enjoyed certain things prior to becoming a mom, or adding children to the mix, or all of those things, if you enjoyed that, make sure you are continuing to do that.
Yes.
Again, when I am a whole mama, when I'm a whole woman out here in the streets, then I am going to be a whole wife. I'm going to be a whole mom. I'm going to be a whole everything that I need to be to everybody else. But if I am overwhelmed, if I am not maintaining myself, if I am letting myself go, then I am going to be frustrated with those around me who's asking me for things that I cannot give you. Because when I'm overwhelmed and I'm frustrated, it's almost like my little teacup. It's really empty. If you ask me for some, you would get very little, because it's not that much in here.
Sweetie.
But when I am doing what I am doing those things, I'm spending time with the Lord. I am spending time in service unto the Lord. I am doing those things that I enjoy doing, that make me, not make me whole, but those things that help me maintain wholeness, that help me maintain my wholeness. When I'm doing those things, when my children come in and ask me for something, I'm not frustrated or resentful. I'm not acting in resentment towards them for asking me for something.
That's right.
Why you asking me for something and you know I don't have it? Because that's where resentment comes from.
You better speak
It
today.
is coming from this place of, I don't have it to give, so I am upset with you. It is not fair for you to ask me for something that I cannot give you. So when you find yourself in a battle with somebody and you ask them for something that almost comes across as if they're mad at you, or they resent you for asking, it is because they feel that is unfair for you to ask me that, and you know I don't have, or you know that I don't have it in me to give you. And we have to pause and we have to say, because I know a lot of women who struggle with that. I don't have it to give. So I'm mad at people who ask me to give them something that I cannot give them. Then how about we take a pause? Let's pause and let's figure out why you don't. Let's figure out why. Because in order to do that, now we're going to have to brace ourselves, and we got to hold on for this one. Because in order for you to stop this whole cycle of resentment that you got going on, because you're mad because people are asking you for stuff you can't give them, you're going to have to take a few steps back. You're going to have to take a pause. And then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to own yourself. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to own you. You're going to have to care about you enough. You're going to have to care about yourself enough to begin to pour back into what you need. Pour back into yourself. You're going to have to do those things, but you're going to have to consider yourself worthy enough to do those things. And that's where we miss the market. We go through life, but we don't deem ourselves worthy enough to pour into ourselves. I'm not important enough to myself to do it. I'm not important. I don't find myself. I don't love myself enough to make the changes that I need to make. I don't love myself enough. And that is part of the battle. That's at the core sometimes of the battle, particularly with us as women. You can blame everybody else in the world for you not getting what you need. But at the core of that, baby, that's you. That's you. Most of the change that we need to create, like seriously, in our lives, and I'm speaking for myself, that ain't got nothing to do with other people. That has everything to do with you. Why you not loving you enough to pause? If you know that you need a moment away, if you know that you need a moment to breathe, stop blaming your husband. He keep asking me for stuff. He know I don't know. It's not his fault. It's your fault. It's your fault, because you won't call the time out and say, you know what I need today, baby? I need to take a break because I don't have it in me today. But you won't slow down and recognize and realize you're not getting what you want, because at some point you're not being honest. Like you are not owning. You won't take responsibility for yourself. It's easier for me to blame you for me not getting rest, for me not having support, for me not having things that I need. Why? Because it's just easier for me to throw it on you than for me to take responsibility and ownership for myself. So at the core of a lot of that is no. Nobody else can take responsibility for you. But let's take it a step further. What happened in my life where I don't want to take responsibility for myself? when I drop the ball on me, when I don't want to take responsibility for myself, when I don't want to do what I need to do for myself to have a better quality of life for myself, when I'm not doing all of these things, and it's not even selfish, it's coming from a place of, yeah, I don't really love me. I'm not loving me enough. Not even like me. I don't love myself enough to do these things. And I just want to keep, it's everybody else's fault. But when it's not my children's fault because they want something from me. It's not my children's fault because they want me to show up. It's not my son's fault because he want me to come outside and play ball with him. It's not my daughter's fault because, Mom, I just want to talk to you. But I'm so depleted.
Jesus.
I'm so empty that I'm mad at you for asking me to do something like this. So but get out. I don't have time for that. Don't you see all this other stuff that I got to do? When all you got to do is pause, take a moment, and show yourself some love.
Yes.
Show yourself some love.
Yes.
And how do you do that? But here's the thing. You're going to have to, you can't do both. You can't do both. You can't point your finger
Yes.
at somebody and then turn around and you don't want the responsibility for yourself. You don't want it. And why don't you want it? Like, you have to ask yourself, why don't I want to be responsible for myself? I don't trust myself. Is it that I'm not fooling with myself enough? What is it about myself where I'm not fooling with myself enough? Do I not deem myself valuable enough? I don't find I'm not valuable enough. And that's it. That's it.
That's it.
You don't deem yourself valuable enough to take a pause and say, hey. So that's why it's so much easier for us to put that off on other people. But then if there's an expectation, your child is only expecting what they should be expecting. I remember when I kind of got this understanding, when MJ wanted me to, I was just feeling this one little time and season, I was feeling very, very overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And MJ asked me for something, and I don't remember what it is. It had to been something like, come go outside or something with me. And I remember being so upset with him for asking me. Like, don't you see all of this stuff that I got to do? Don't you see I don't have time for this? Don't you see? And I remember feeling like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I am upset with my son for asking me to come outside and play with him. And I'm expecting him to understand all of this weight that's on me. How can a 3-year-old understand this weight that is on me? But you know what I was failing to do was I was failing to pour into myself.
My.
I was failing to take responsibility for me and my time. See, it was easy for me to blame you and say, well, Marron, you're always busy. You come and go. I have to do all of this stuff around here. When all I had to do, because when I love myself, I protect myself. When I love myself and when I'm in a place of loving myself, I include you in the process. Hey, I know that I cannot do all of these things around this house on my own. So because I love myself, I don't want to even see myself overwhelmed. I don't want to see myself acting like that with my child. So you know what I have to do? I have to communicate. When I love myself, I have to communicate. And I have to say, hey, honey, do you think you can help me do X, Y, Z? Do you think you can pick up this? Do you think you can you make sure MJ got his cleats? Can you make sure MJ got his clothes for this? Can you make sure? Because I'm trying to avoid overwhelm. And the only way, and I have to avoid because I love myself and I don't even like myself overwhelmed. But because when I love myself, I ask for what I need. When I love me, I don't have a problem asking for what I need. And that is not something that is normalized, not only in our community, but it's not normalized with women. Because sometimes we have issues formulating what I need. And where is that coming from? It's coming from a place of you don't love yourself enough to ask for what it is that you need. That's human beings. Love you enough to ask for what you need. But it's easier for me to blame somebody else for me not getting what I need than for me to take responsibility for myself. And even in parenting, you absolutely positively have to do that. You have to take responsibility for yourself, or you're going to be a jacked up parent. And you're going to have little jacked up kids.
Yes. That's good.
Amen.
That's good. If we was at church, girl, we'd have been shouting right on that.
Amen. It was a long way around the mulberry bush, but we got there.
We got there.
It was a long way around, but we got there.
Yeah. I think it's a point earlier that you made about when we had we getting ready to have MJ, we didn't have some of those same issues. But remember, I was very concerned prior to having them.
Yes.
Because and this was the conversation. Look, if we and I know you didn't have any control of that, but I was concerned because of what took place earlier. It's like,
And rightfully so, though.
if,
Like, being honest, rightfully so.
yeah, if we're gonna have those issues, then I don't know if it's worth having a child,
Right.
But those were conversations that we had, before we had MJ, and so yeah, that this is good. This is good. I think I want you to talk a little bit about this, Tori,
Okay.
just about, because oftentimes we see, there are certain situations where you have a husband that's so involved with his children that he neglects his wife. But I think oftentimes you have a wife that's really so involved in their children that they neglect their husbands. I think neither one of them are good. A friend of mine asked me this some time ago, because he would see me at work and was like, man, you're working really hard at work. He would know that you and I spent a lot of time together. And there was this one time I was at Chuck E. Cheese with Madison. And he was like, man, how do you do all of that? Because he said he was from a place of you do either or.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a great husband, but I can't do the other part of it. Or I'm going to be a great, businessman, but I can't be a great dad if I'm going to do all of this. And he was just, how do you do all of that? And he said, I helped him with both and,
Yep.
so you can you can do a great job, both and, it's not either or, it's both and. And I think the thing for me, and not that I'm the greatest guy in the world, but the thing for me is really big on prioritizing. I think that is so key. And you mentioned it in terms of making sure that you're in a good place with the Lord and pointing to yourself. That is so important. And if we miss that, we missing everything. When we skip that process and say, I'm going to be a great dad, my mission in life is to be the best dad in the world, you missed it. Some people's mission in life is to be the great mom in the world. You missed it. My mission, I want to be the greatest husband in the world. You missed it. If you're not the greatest servant, if you're not allowing God to pour into you, if you're not, then you can't be the greatest dad. You can't be the greatest wife. You can't be you can't, or you've misprioritized. Things are out of order, and that thing become your God, and God doesn't like it. So you can go, you can die being a great dad, but a terrible servant of the Lord.
Absolutely.
And that's number one.
Absolutely.
I think for me, it's just been that focus to where I have to prioritize, and it has to be God and my spouse and my children. And that has helped tremendously. It's not that anything great. It's just trying to, where are you with God? Where are you with your wife? Where are you with your children? Where are you with the church? Where, with the ministry, the family? And so I think that's really huge. And so can you just speak to this? What do you think about, a wife who's there and don't prioritize and feels that, hey, let me invest more in my children than in my husband? Just talk a little bit about that.
I think you mentioned it earlier. Children are an easy love. Like loving your children is easy until they become teenagers. But loving them, they are, for one, there is just this connection I think that parents have with their children. Like, I just automatically I just love you. Like, because you are a part of me. Like, I look at my kids sometime, and granted, they are both different, like night and day, but I see me in both of them. One looks more like me, but just like, oh my gosh, like, you are a part of me. Like, my DNA is in you. Like, oh, wow. And I gave birth to you. So I cared for you. I carried you. I nurtured you. Like, and even if, even for mamas who didn't necessarily give birth to them, like, I care for you. I nurture you. I love you as if I gave birth to you. But I think there's just something special about, off the top, a connection between a mother and her children. So that's off the top. And I think women, sometimes we just ride that wave out because their love is easy. Like, So I got on MJ this morning about like picking up his stuff. And this is kind of how our relationship is. Even when he's a tidbit upset with me. And I said, that's okay. I know you're mad at me. And so he got ready to go. I prayed for him. He prayed for me. And we got ready to go. And I kissed him. Like I grabbed him from the back and I kissed him. And he was like, I love you too. So we mad. I don't like the way that you don't pick up behind yourself. But it's still this automatic like, my mama mad at me. And I don't like the fact that she got on me. But I still love her though. Now, I don't know if that's a mama-son thing. Maybe that's what that is. Because Madison could care less. She could care less. Like, all right, bye. You know. But she's that way with you. My daddy said something that upset me. Maddie, I love you. I love you too. You know, so it's just, I don't know if it's just the daddy-daughter thing or the son. But I just think it's just easier for mamas to just, it is easier to cleave to something that is easy.
Yeah. And
baby love and children love is just an easy love until they get old enough to where now there's some challenges in relationship challenges, which is absolutely normal, but it's still challenges. And here's the thing. When your children begin to challenge that love, it shifts. Yeah. Because up until Madison became a teenager and kind of started pulling away a little bit because that's what they do. She pulling away a little bit. You started in response to that, like, wait a minute now. Yeah. You ain't finna be pulling away. Because up until that point, that love has been easy.
Yes.
And so that's why women tend to lean more into children love because it's such an easy reciprocated, almost like immediate reciprocated love. Whereas with a spouse, it ain't always reciprocated.
Yeah, you remember you told me this before, you know, you MJ was laying down and I said, man, like I was like, why would you love me like that or whatever? And he was like, yeah, it's easy to love him. Like he doesn't hurt you. You know what I'm saying? He don't disappoint you. You know. And so
absolutely
it really made me think about that. Like you were joking, but there's some validity to that. To where he gonna do what I need him to do. Yeah. He gonna love me back. He gonna you know. And so it's painful loving you sometimes.
Yeah, you know. Because we're two full grown individuals in bringing our own selves to the table, and so sometimes this doesn't mix with your that. And so we have to work to make our this and that work. And sometimes that's a challenge because you don't do it how I want you to do it and vice versa. Yeah. So, but whereas with your children, it's easier. So that's all I think. That's all I think it is. Well, not all, because I don't want to give blanket statements like that. Like, oh, that's all it is. If you're struggling with that, then, no. Sometimes it's, if there are some past issues at play, then not only is a child's love easier, sometimes it's just, I don't necessarily want your love. I just don't want your love. You know how couples sometimes will stay together for the sake of the kids. It is those situations, like I'm only in it until my children get to a certain age, and then we can go and part our ways. We just don't want to give our children, we just want them in a certain environment. Well, that is dangerous. That is very, very dangerous. If you're not going to work on your marriage, that's dangerous. Yeah. You know, because you're still showing them you're still showing your kids something. And we as adults feel like our children aren't intuitive, like they don't see certain things. But that is so not true. Yeah. So not true.
I'm going to speak to the young, and we'll close. I'm going to speak to the young husband with a young child. Okay. And you speak to the young wife with a young child. I want to say this to the young husband with a young child. I want to encourage you that when your wife, when you all have a child together, you know, it's something that happens. It's not a shift in her love, but now she's loving somebody else. And there's a difference to where it's she nurses the child. She cares for the child. The child was in her body. There is a different type of love that we won't experience. That is a different love from God that she has for her child. And I think it's important that you understand that you know that. And it's not that she's withholding love from you. It's that she has a lot to give. There's a time, there's a space when there's nursing. There's a time and a space when they're bonding together. And we have to be patient, understanding, helpful, and not jealous, because sometimes as men we can become jealous, and you giving him more attention and more love, or giving her more attention, more love than you're giving us. So being patient in that process, and also make sure that you're heavily involved in the process, as it relates to feeding the child, walking the child, lightening her load, being domestic around the house, helping to lighten her load, because she shouldn't have to be so concerned about the chairs in the house and chores, and you're out doing whatever it is that you need to do, and now at midnight you ready to sleep with her and like let's get it on. No, lighten her load. Understand that there's a bit of a shift, and letting her know that, hey, look, I'm still Big Dad. Don't forget about Big Dad, but I got you. I know I cannot even fathom the type of stress, the pressure, the sense of overwhelmness that you have, because I never had a 10-pound, 9-pound, 7-pound or any size baby inside of me. So I'm here with you. You don't have to do this alone. You're not doing this alone. I'm here in this process with you, and I'm not going anywhere. Show her that, and be understanding of her love and affection and her bonding with her new child, and watch what happens in your marriage. Amen. Speak to her as it relates to her husband and his concerns.
I will briefly say this to go back to the point that we made just about maintaining. It's going to be very important that you maintain your relationship with your spouse, but it's going to be important that you maintain your relationship with yourself. It is everything that we do drives from, or it is coming from, this place of being whole within ourselves. It has to start with this desire, that it starts with a desire for us to want better, for us to love better, for us to give better. And all of that is going to come, and it's going to stem from you and your relationship with yourself. And so it's easier to give your spouse what your spouse needs when you have what you need from yourself. Not from your spouse, but from yourself. So when you're coming from a place of wholeness, you can look and you can recognize and say, oh, wow, wait a minute. I've kind of been neglecting my spouse, and I need to get back in here, and I need to prioritize him, and I need to, and how do we do that? It's, all right, let me make sure that I'm on top of date night. Let me make sure that I'm on top of just communicating with him, shooting him a text message. Let's make sure that even if we can't do anything at night, maybe schedules don't allow, maybe we can pull away for lunch and let's go meet each other for lunch, or let's have lunch together. So those little bitty things, and it's just the little acts. It doesn't have to be like you got to take a 7-day cruise or a 7-day vacation, although it would be nice. Those aren't necessarily necessary. What's necessary is you get back to a place of connection, and connecting is important because when you are connected, it keeps you from allowing and letting the little foxes in, because in your connection and in connecting, you're talking, you're communicating to each other, and you're recognizing certain things. So I think it's those things. Maintaining your relationship with you, and then maintaining your relationship with your spouse.
Amen. That's some good stuff. That's some good stuff.
Amen. So this is our Q&A segment, and this is where we answer a question that was asked. And the question for today is, my husband does nothing regarding our children. He is out living his best life, and I am here feeling all of the pressure. What do I do?
Well, you speak to that.
No, I want to hear the husband's point of view.
So, I mean, she said that he's living his best life. She's there with the kids and with all the responsibility. And what should she do?
Yes.
So I think what she should do is pray to the Lord that he touch her husband's heart, and because whatever it is that he's out doing, is taking precedent over his responsibilities at the house. And so I'm not sure if he's working, but then the question is, he's living his best life. So maybe he's
which
not
is
just
perceptive.
Yes, and I think Is it he's working hard? He has a lot of responsibility. He's a CEO of a company. He's trying to get a company off the ground. So is he living his best life in that regard? Or is he living his best life from a standpoint of, man, he goes to the gym. He, hangs out with his friend. He going playing poker. He's going to work. He's playing sports. He's going out of town. And if that's the case, I think that's a real issue. And I think it's prayer and asking God for wisdom, and also speaking to him about how you're feeling, and I think speaking to him with a sense of calm and how this is affecting you, how it's affecting your marriage, how it's affecting the mental state. I'm not sure about all the details in the marriage, but I think you're communicating with him with a level and calm head about how this is making you feel and what it's doing to you. I think that's the first step, communicating to him, because you can't make him do anything,
right?
But does he know how you feel about this, and have that conversation? I think it's important, and hopefully he'll make the different adjustments of what he need to do to be more supportive, more active. Letting them know to where man, when you're more domestic, when you spend the time with the children, when you spend the time with me, it affords me the opportunity to give you the things that you really need and you desire, and just to be happy. So I think that conversation needs to be had.
I agree. And I thought it was interesting that she said he's out living his best life. And because that is perception. If I'm in the house, anything that you do outside of this environment is you living your best life. Right. And so if you out there living your best life, then I'm not doing that. And so I will, if she's not careful, she will begin. And it's, you sense an undertone of there's this resentment thing because this is not fair. It's not fair. That's right. And so when I feel like stuff is not fair, then now I resent it. And I don't want to resent. You don't want to resent your spouse, but it's so easy to fall into that. So communication, you spot on it. Like, we got to talk about it and we got to put some action. And I would also encourage my sister friend, know what it is that you're asking for.
Absolutely.
Know what it is that you need. Yeah. Because you can say, I just want you to be here. I just want you to spend more time. Okay. Doing what though? Because sometimes men are very, okay, tell me what you want me to do though.
That's right.
Because if you just want me in the house, if I come home and I don't go hang with the boys, or if I come home and I rearrange my schedule so I'm not at the office and I'm here and I'm asleep, you still gonna be mad at me. Yeah. So what do you want? Do you want me here? Do you want a break? Yes, I want you 2 days a week on Thursdays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. I would love if you came home at 5:00, and then when you come home, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go do something that fills my cup. Absolutely. Because she's perceiving that his cup is getting full in his best life. Yeah. So sis, you're going to have to break away and you're going to have to do some things that fills your cup. Absolutely. So, we don't keep this thing going.
Absolutely.
If this podcast has blessed you, there are 3 things that we want you to do. Number 1, we want you to subscribe to the podcast. Number 2, we want you to review it. We love feedback here at the Still in Love podcast. And so when you give us those 5 stars and you review the podcast, it lets us know that we are scratching where you are itching. And number 3, we want you to share it. Anything that you experience that is good, it's kind of like going to a good restaurant. When you go and you get something good to eat, the first thing you want to do is share it with other people. We would love for you to share with your family and friends.
Don't just start in love,
but stay in love.
Thanks for tuning in to Still in Love podcast. God bless.